Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you all to our very last session of the 8th Annual World Languages Week. You may already know, but my name is Ha-Kyun Lee, Director of Culture, and I'd like to thank you all for being here with us today. So, again, thank you so much for your participation in the expo yesterday. If you hosted a booth yesterday, we really appreciate your time. Based on the feedback for yesterday's expo and based on the idea that this is the very last session, we want to invite you to an open webinar session to meet each other and also learn more about your organizations as well as your expertise. So we'd like to have this opportunity to get to know each other and find some potential collaboration in the future. So welcome you all and thanks again. And for this session, we will briefly introduce yourself and your organization and take a turn and then introduce each other. And then we'll spend some time for each center and organization. We'll introduce the project, the current project, or anything that you promote from your center. So that's how we planned for today. We also have time for questions from each other and also from the audience. So we can spend some time toward the later part of the session. Okay, so we can start from introduction. So we'll go first. My name is Ha-Kyun Lee. Again, I'm the Director of Culture, but also I'm coordinating Korean program at Georgia State University. So Korean program is housed in the Department of World Languages and Cultures. And I'm coordinating the Korean program, also teaching Korean at GSU. So maybe you can start with the Connie, if you are here. Yeah, Connie, can you start?
Sure. I'm here. I'm Connie Johnson. I'm the lead director at the National Foreign Language Center, which is a part of the University of Maryland. We're located in College Park, Maryland, right outside DC. Our center has a number of different projects that we focus on. One is a Department of Education Language Resource Center that's focused on teacher professional learning or teacher professional development. We offer free programs, a virtual summer conference. We offer an in-person Star Talk conference. You can get more information by signing up on the on the National Foreign Language Center website. That's one area. We're also a Delencio funded language training center. So we offer language training for members of the DoD. And we create materials and assessments that we make free to the world. So we have an app, Lectia, that we have. It offers language learning materials in 19 languages. And we have an e-learning portal that offers about 7,000 lessons and self-assessments in over 90 languages. And so we make all of our materials available to the world for free. Our mission is helping people understand each other and the world around them. And so that's the Language Center. And we have someone in the background putting links to all of these things that I'm saying. Usually I have my colleague Mike Buckout-White with me, and he usually does that. So thank you. But you can always reach me on the National Foreign Language Center website. I'm just connie@umd.edu. But if you just Google NFLC, you'll find me, or LinkedIn, many different ways. In the background. This is fantastic, whoever's doing that. But anyway, thanks for letting me introduce myself and the center.
Thank you, Connie. Thank you very much. Do we have an opportunity to learn more about Lakia later on when we finish our introduction? That would be great.
Absolutely. I can share my screen and it'll, piece of cake.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So let's do the introduction and then we'll have that opportunity. That would be great. Okay, Erica.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I am Erica Mason. I work for LATN Language Solutions. We offer interpreting services, and I can tell you a little bit more about what we do now, or I can wait until later. I'm not sure exactly which you would prefer.
Yeah, I think you could introduce. That would be
Okay.
great. Yes.
Well, we've been in business for 26 years. We offer translation services, localization, transcription services. Offer interpreting for over 100 spoken languages, as well as American Sign Language, for assignments like medical appointments, corporations, government agencies, schools, legal appointments. We do both consecutive and simultaneous modes. And we can do those via on-site video, on-site or via video or phone platforms. So that's currently that's LATN. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here this morning.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
Mhm.
Thank you. Okay, shall we move on to Afaf?
Hi, thank you. Yeah, nice meeting you all, and really interesting, I think I visited Maryland University, interesting programs you're having, and I'm Afaf Afaf Stayet from Afaf Translations. I'm a founder of our company. It's in the Bay Area located across of San Francisco, and I was also representing ATA as well as trying to introduce the students during the exhibit of yesterday to NCTA's Northern California Translator Association. So we shared some resources for the students and from the ATA how to get certified as a certified translator, as well as the CCHI, which is the medical certification. We were discussing a couple of things. I have been in business since 2004. Our company mission, it was more starting with patent translations, scientific patents and technical, where we found a gap in bridging between the language and the science part. So we tried to work on this, starting in different languages, how to perfect the translation. And we started with no certification in the beginning, with experienced translators, but over the time we encourage all our translators to get certified. So it's much more same terminology, same glossary. So we are working under the same umbrella. So this is what we discussed with the students. They were discussing about internships, and definitely it's harder to recommend newly graduates that as soon as they get out, just go directly and get certified. So we were discussing back and forth. Some they liked to try the water first. Some they prefer to have regular job rather than a freelancer. But we definitely, once they are settled and they want to be a freelancer, definitely we would prefer that everybody can be certified and we are all in the same page. It makes our profession much more protected, in the same time much more in standards, like we prefer it more under the same QA standards. So we offer, Afaf Translations offer multilingual services. We started Spanish, German, Arabic as the beginning. Then now we are working on 150 languages. We are GSA certified. We work with the government on contracts. Nowadays, the market is also changing, which is really interesting to see if the academia teaching is also changing as well. That's what I was curious about when I was talking about the student with the students. Is it now the market is more cart, virtual interpreting, machine translation? Are we going to twist a bit the syllabus, or to touch the water with the students so they really know what they're jumping in? Because the market has definitely have a jump right now within the last 2-3 years. Localization, everything is more quicker. And when the students get out, they take time till they teach themselves each a program, and depending on which jobs they are. So this was a real interesting subject to discuss. If the learning, do they have to keep learning forever, or it's more self-learning and more determination of where they are located and what is needed in the area? And right now we are in the market as agency, we are moving in the speed of light. I hope the introduction is not too long. Thank you for listening to all of that, but it was really interesting 2 days. I did enjoy it all. And I'm pretty sure we will keep, running in the market because it's a real moving market, which makes it exciting to all of us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I think we have a lot to share about, translation field, and then I have many questions to ask maybe later in the Q&A time. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
And
I will be
also
leaving 6:30 though, because I have another meeting. Yeah, in 15 minutes.
yeah, because since we have Erica too, who are in the translation field, so that would be great if we can, to discuss further on this as well. Okay, Erica, do you want to add something? Since we are talking about the translation field, is there anything that you want to add a bit more?
Sorry, I was trying to find my unmute button.
Yes.
I find it very interesting. Yes, we are definitely going, you see a lot more people going online and doing those kinds of things. As far as adding to the translations portion, I am specifically the part that works more with the interpretations portion. So I would be able to answer more of the interpretation questions versus the translation questions as part of this. But I know our Vice President, Luana Dennis, would be a great person to connect with, and I can give her information as well. She would love to answer any questions that there may be out there for that.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so can we change the gear a little bit to we'll pass it to Connie if you want to demonstrate or show us your program. We would love to learn more about Latia, right?
Yeah, sure. But if the translation folks have a time commitment or like a limit, I can stay a little bit longer. I'm not sure if Latia is of interest to the translation folks. It might be interesting to other people in the room, but if you have more translation chat before I jump in with Latia, I'm happy to mute and then just jump in when you're done.
Yeah, what do you think? Do you Afaf, how much time do you have?
I will be actually leaving at the like 15 minutes, like the 9:30 from here. Yeah. Because
okay, let me check if we have any questions in Q&A. I see some questions, but if those are related to the translation field, maybe you can talk about that first. Connie, if you don't mind. Okay. Yeah, I have a very good question in the chat. What are the dying languages? I think maybe we can talk about this one in translation fields, in workplace, and what I think maybe you can talk about more popular and urgently needed kind of language in translation field, and if there's any like a dying language or yeah, so if you could maybe share about that business as well.
Yeah, so we offer interpreting and translation and transcription voiceover. And what we are seeing, we only speak some lectures we attend, where we're speaking about the indigenous language, which we are trying to revive it. So far, we are not feeling like there is a dying language. Actually, the languages are only getting to be recoming and re-needed. So it's more harder when it's like the tribes, languages, some languages Lao a little bit harder to find translators inside of USA where they can be certified. But so far we are reviving the languages. We are not really dying languages, much more needed than ever. And, we are trying always to make sure that we are working with experienced like translators, even if the language is not all the time needed, that's what our thoughts is about. When it's a difficult language, it's a rare language, then it's harder to find the professional translator where you assure the quality assurance, which we work on it, a lot. So it's often like languages are only coming more and more and more important in our society in general.
Erica, you want to add something to that answer?
Well, I think that what I would add is just there are those languages that are harder to find or harder to like locate someone in the United States who can be credentialed. I do agree with that it's very it can be hard to find people and very important to find someone who is fluent in both languages. To find that it is a big challenge for that, and to be able to make sure that they actually are fluent in both languages. So there are those languages that are harder to find, and we need to do our part to try and keep them alive with the translations and interpreting as we can.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's great. I have one question. So what in the field of professions, what's the most kind of a needed field of the translation or translators or interpreters? There are some areas I think of in my mind is maybe nursing or media. Social media would be, very popular area as well. So could you maybe tell us about that?
So regarding the field for what is the most needed, it is, a lot of different needs according to the market and the global market and the economy around the world. But what is hard to get it perfected, like originally the translator, maybe a century ago or 2 centuries, we were only like translators for books, literature. So that's the way it was. Like the graduate starts out with, let us make a book, and translates well, and they read the author ideas. Now it's more a translation for everything in all fields, as you say, in the media. A lot of when you're speaking about which is the most needed, it's actually the localization part for the media marketing, for example. We need to know who are we directing it to, how do we localize it to a certain culture. And when we started in 2004, it was more needed in the patents, technical field, scientific field, in some languages like Arabic and other certain languages, we felt like it does need more a stronger scientific background in the QA. So there is more like perfection need rather than just needing a certain field, because every field it's needed now in all languages. But the most which we need to work harder on glossaries, backgrounds, terminology is mostly in our situation of our company. We see more growth in our field of technical and more scientific and more patents, field.
Thank you so much, Afaf, for your answer. Okay. So attendees, please, if you have any questions regarding translation, the questions for Erica and Afaf, please leave that in the Q&A box so that we can ask this question to Erica and Afaf. Okay. Connie, do you have any question to Erica and Afaf? Nope.
No, it's just translation is something we had previously been really involved in and passionate about. It's really hard to train translators. We had a course, Fundamentals of Translation, that unfortunately was built in Flash, and so it is no longer available on our website. But it's so important to have the training to do. It's a difficult job. It's not just knowing one language and another language. There's a lot of cognitive load involved in it. So my hats off to both of you, especially the interpreting is so difficult. So.
Yeah, that's correct. It's more than, I totally agree, more than just language, right? There are many other components you need to know and understand and convey and deliver through this whole process. So especially these days, we are, familiar with the like a machine translation, right? Google Translation and AI or some other tools, but there's something definitely we cannot, do for this whole process, right? So yeah, I totally agree with that. Okay, then let's see. Let me check one more time if there's any. Okay, so now moving on to, because I don't see any further questions related to translation. So if you don't mind, we can move on to the Lisita. Yeah.
Sure. So as I mentioned in my little intro, everything we do, we put out there for free. And if I could, may I share my screen? Because I can show
Sure.
you a little bit about Lectia and
Yeah.
our portal. And actually, before the translators leave, when you're practicing with translators to get them up to speed, there is something that maybe that I've given translation presentations in the local area. Translation is not my true area of expertise. It's second language acquisition. But one thing, building working memory is such an important part of becoming a translator. And one thing that our portal offers, so I know you asked me to talk about Lectia, but before I do that, I just wanted to mention, we have a e-learning portal that has over 90 materials in 90 languages. And all of the languages have an authentic piece of content. Everything the NFLC does is built around authentic content. And all of our language learning materials, not our assessment materials, but our language learning materials have a translation and a transcript. And so one thing that I've given presentations on is just building working memory. And one thing you can do is open up an object and listen to, pick the language you want to translate into. If you're translating from English into another language, go to the English translation and then translate into the other language and check your work. If you're translating from English to another language, start with the source material text. And it's not, our objects are not built for translation, but there are ways for you to use, say, your phone to record your translation and then listen back to what you've said and compare it to what's on our website. So there's a way to use our materials to increase working memory. It's not the purpose of our materials. Our materials, the purpose of them was to improve just to teach a language, but there's a way that translators get a benefit out of this. And so we've heard a lot of, I was going to open up an object, but I don't know if we have a learning object. These are all test items. So, but anyway, if you go on to our website, you go maintenance and improvement. Here we go. You could open up an object, view item. Oh, that opens in another screen, so I'm not sharing the other screen. But in any event, you can practice translating from either into English or from the target language into English, or if you start with the translation, you can go from English into the target language. Because not only do we have for all of our anyway, I'll let you all play around with it, but it's just portal.nflc.umd.edu. And so I know that translators have used our materials to build interpreters have used our materials to build working memory, and translators have just used it for translation practice. So I just thought while we still have translators here, throw that out there. But for language learning, if I go back to the main page, our portal offers a number of, like I said, 90 languages. There's language maintenance and improvement. This just happens to be in one language. I picked Serbian, but if I click out of Serbian and get the whole language list, we have, like I said, 90 languages, and everything is free. You just go to the portal, enter your email address. We do not track anything about our users. All we do is track the number of new users per month. So when you come onto our portal, you set up an account and you play around. I will say that we're doing maintenance and upgrades to our portal between now and November 11th. So sign in may be a little glitchy, but then once we migrate to the new platform, any kind of glitches that you encounter between now and November 11th will be resolved. But you had specifically asked about Lectia. Lectia is our app. All of our language learning materials and assessments are based on an authentic piece of content, either a social media text or a article published in a newspaper, an online newspaper. Maybe it's a video or some kind of audio. Our app runs from novice low. We have very beginning. We work a lot on the ILR scale, which is the scale that the government uses. So we always say from 0+ to L3 on the ILR scale, and from novice low to superior on the ACTFL scale. So we have materials for very beginners as well as to people who are very proficient in the language. Lectia is available in 19 languages. And when you go to the Lectia website, you choose from a language, you're able to select more than one language. Once you do that, you select a level. If you're unsure of your level, there are some questions that you can answer that will help guide you to a level. You set a goal. I want to work 5 minutes, a day. I want to work X amount a week. And then you start learning, and that's it. The best way, it's really hard because it's an app for me to pull it up on the web. We don't have a web version of it. It's just available. It's device agnostic. It works on Android and iOS devices, but we don't access it from the web. So basically, I usually walk people through this. But do you have questions about how we've developed it or the purpose of it? I can stop sharing my screen.
Thank you so much, Connie. That's really helpful. Yeah, that's amazing. Yes. Yeah. Audience, if you have any questions, please leave your question in the Q&A box so that we can ask your question to Connie. Would be great. I have a question actually. It's a free program. I always, I'm curious about the free program, like who funded and how can you get the secure kind of, resource for this one? Yeah.
Yeah, so we, this was mainly self-funded. Sometimes there's funding around the university. If we have a contract, sometimes we have firm fixed contracts and we have a little money left over, and that becomes our money. So this was self-funded. Mainly. It's something that we've been working on since 2012. We had an earlier prototype that was language ladder that was not not as wonderful as this one. So it's been a slow process here and there when we have extra time at the center to put it together. Our portal is mainly from grants from the federal government, but Lectia was largely self-funded. So it has been a long road. We've been working on it for a decade. It isn't something we could have done in a year. We wouldn't have funds for that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that answered my question. So like compared to other, because these days we have students have so many apps, they do Hello Korean is very popular one among Korean learners. That's one of the popular app that people know. So if you could maybe introduce anything special about Lectia, like this functions that only Lectia has, not other apps. Could you maybe promote a little bit? That would be great.
Sure. The thing we're most proud about is that every single passage that you encounter on our app is taken. At our 0+, we have things that are inspired by real life. Maybe we'll edit out a word or two, but these are things that are taken from YouTube or from, like I said, publications. It's authentic. And so I think one thing that's different is we're not bending the language to teach a specific grammar point. Instead, we're pulling from the way the language is used currently. All of the materials on Lectia are taken from the last year of the publication date. So for the things that we started with 7 languages that were published a year ago, so all of the authentic passages on that would be from the 12-month period before that. The ones that were published in this fall, in September, they're within, it's actually 18 months because it takes us 6 months to develop it. But within 8, they were published, made public within 18 months. So language changes. And, sometimes you'll pull language learning materials out and the actual source text was created or taken from something in the late 90s. Language has changed a lot in the last 25 years. And so what makes us most proud about our app is that it uses authentic materials that are recent. So it's how the language is really used right now. It's infused with cultural notes, and so every lesson has 5 to 7 activities. 3 are focused on comprehension, 2 are focused on linguistic activities, and then there's cultural notes. And so we really hope that by using our app, students have an opportunity to get a feel for the way the language is used and not textbook language. The other thing that's really easy to incorporate into a class if you're a teacher, because at the end of the lesson, you have the option to have your students PDF their results and email it to the teacher. We find we use them in our own language training courses, and I'm constantly talking to schools about how they can incorporate it. It's really designed for high school and above, and we try to, our target audience is really adults, but they are topics that are of interest and appropriate for, they're appropriate. There's nothing scary about them. They'd be appropriate for middle school and beyond. But the target audience is university students and adults. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, that's great. And, as a teacher, finding authentic material is always challenging. And for example, if you use the drama, you always need to focusing on everything you can see may be outdated, even though the content itself is really good. So I think that's a great point. Maybe I will check the Q&A box one more time if there's any questions coming up. If not, I can, if you don't mind, ask maybe one more question. So what is the most popular language that, based on the frequency of download, and then, or I don't know how you can measure it, but,
You have to talk amongst yourselves for a second. We have an internal chat, Slack. I will see if someone can answer that question for me.
Okay.
Early on, it was the languages that you would expect. We had high use of Spanish, Russian, and Korean. I don't know. I didn't check the statistics before this meeting, so I can't tell you what the most recent ones are, because we've just added 12 new languages. So with our first 7, the high frequency ones were Russian, Spanish, and Korean. But since then we've added more. And so actually Korean was this year, so it must have been Chinese.
Let's see.
But anyway, let me just Slack and see. See, we'll give them 30 seconds and see if they respond. If not, I'm sticking with my first answer. Any other questions while we figure this one out?
Yeah, I have a question here in the chat. Is ESL part of your languages?
So not yet. It's something that there's 2 things, like if we have dreams about our goals, but again, it's fitting it in between our sponsored work, adding an ESL feature, adding languages for ESL students, not languages, but adding, materials in English designed for ESL, and then also getting our interface to be in other languages, because right now our user interface is only in English. So there's the source passage, of course, in the target language, but all of the instructions with the app are in English. And so we would like to make it so that the user interface might be in other languages. And then, of course, to address the needs of ESL students. So not now, but hopefully at some day.
Yeah, sometime. Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
And
I have a, go ahead. You got the answer?
no, but they're working on it.
They're working
Our
on it,
response,
okay.
we're working on it.
All right. Yeah. Erica, do you have any questions, to Connie about the program or the learning program that she introduced earlier?
I want to play around with it a little bit and kind of see what kind of questions come up. So what would you say is the main objective? Like if I download this, what would you want me to take away from this, as far as like, how do let's say I don't speak, I sign more than anything, but I don't speak Spanish. I'd like to learn Spanish. Is this something that can help me like read Spanish, or like how would I, as a novice user, a novice speaker, use your app?
Yeah. So it's first of all, start with the beginner, the beginner levels, and work through it. Each lesson introduces a new concept. There's 20 beginner lessons. No one is ever going to learn all there is to learn about Spanish, say, from our app alone. You would want to add in, some other lesson with it. But if you're beginning, when you take a class and you want more practice, or you're like, this is great, but I want to see, these are these contrived conversations that you learn at every beginner class. This app would expand upon that. Eventually, we would love for it to, give you everything you need to know about a language. But right now, because, we're limited with the money that we have, our discretion, our extra income that we put to this, each level has 20 lessons, which are great to augment any other program and give you, even if you're using a free online program, we're great great extra practice, but you'll never become, master introductory Spanish from just 20 lessons. It doesn't matter whose app you're using. I would say our app will help you use the language and not just fill in blanks, because it's focused on the communicative and using authentic materials, where some apps are teaching grammar by, let's fill in the verb here, let's match these. It's a little bit different. It can be part of a comprehensive, like maybe going across platforms, you could get everything you need to know. The problem with being at a university is that I'm not a very good salesperson, because I know the limitations. Like if you talk to other app developers, they will tell you how their app will get you everything you need to know. But coming from a background of second language acquisition, I can't tell you that. I can't tell you that one class is going to get you everything you need to know. So I'm not a good salesperson, but our product's free and without advertisements, so it works out. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So Connie, we have one question in the chat. Deborah asked a question. What about Granny? Do you have that language in your program? And maybe piggybacking on her question, I want to ask, do you have a plan for adding another language besides those 19? Yeah.
So this is an internal question that we do not have the answer for this year, because Erica brought up, and I want to check our portal because we have worked with Irani before. The issue is on our portal that we deprecate materials that are too old. So right now, the materials in our portal represent what we've done over the past 10 to 12 years. at a certain point, remember I mentioned how we are always using passages that are, when we publish it, the passage is going to be within 6 to 18 months old. That's it. It's not going to be any older. Well, we put our materials on our portal, and they stay up there for a long time, and eventually they become outdated. And so we deprecate materials after a period of time. And so I do not know if we have that on the portal. That person, I think, left. But in any event, we may. Let's see. Oh no, we must have deprecated that. So back to the question about adding languages. We have not decided whether we are going to go to add more languages than our 19, or if we are going to build out more lessons within the 19 languages that we have, so that instead of having 20 beginner lessons, we might have 40 beginner lessons. So that's an internal discussion that we are having right now, and hope to have figured out by the end of the academic year, so that we can start producing more next academic year, so fall 2023.
Thank you so much, Connie, for your answer. And Erica, I have one question for you. Somebody asked in the chat, GSU has a graduate certificate in translation, which requires 5 graduate level courses to earn the certificate. And do you think that taking a national exam to become certified is necessary?
I think that there is a lot to be said for that national certification. I think it goes a long way, and I would encourage that because that is it's a national level where they have it provides validation to your skill. So definitely I would recommend doing national certification.
Thank you so much. Okay, let me check the Q&A box one more time if there's any question that I missed. Okay. Yeah, if you don't mind, maybe I can ask one question to Erica. Where's your office, Erica? Is it more like a virtual office, or how do you work?
We do a mixture of online. Some of our staff works online, but then of course we do have our offices in Midtown, and so we are based out of downtown Atlanta at 850 West Peachtree Street, down in Midtown. So,
Right. Thank you so much. Okay, while we're waiting some other questions.
For those who know of people who speak other languages and are fluent in 2 languages, please, send them our way. We would love to work with them and offer, we do have an onboarding process. We verify that each individual is fluent in both languages and that they do understand the national standards of practice when it involves in interpreting and how to kind of execute those standards of practice, as well as even doing a role play to where language is tested, because someone said it earlier that it's not just about knowing 2 languages. There's so much of the cognitive load that happens behind the scenes that is required in order to make a smooth interpretation. And so we do have an onboarding process, but we would love to meet anyone video wise or on site. Send them our way. You can reach it. You can see us online at latn.com. And of course, we would love to talk to each individual and what their goals are and what their purpose, what they want to achieve, and see if we can do what we can do to help them achieve that.
All right. Thank you so much for that information. Is there anything that you want to add or explain further on about your organizations or any internship opportunity or job opportunity, any collaborations, or yeah, that would be great. Connie, if you have anything to add.
The only thing I'd mention, and I should probably put in the chat,
Mhm.
we do offer summer workshops for pre-service and current language teachers. So if anyone who's attending plans to go into teaching, I'm pulling up the address now. Pearl is our, here, this is the website where you can learn more about our free workshops. So I talked about our materials, but I didn't mention about our resources for teachers. And if there are native speakers of various languages who want to help develop materials, you can go to our website and fill out a form. We do have sometimes part-time work for individuals who want to contribute to picking out those authentic materials that we use.
That'd be great. Connie, you if I remember correctly, you also have a Star Talk program for teacher. It's a staying on campus kind of program for summer. Could you maybe explain that to us?
Sure. As part of Pearl, which is the link I put in the chat, we are offering, and Pearl stands for Professionals in Education Advancing Research and Language Learning. So we focus on research and teacher professional development and professional learning. And as part of that, we're offering a Star Talk summer program. It is part virtual and it's designed for professional learning for pre-service and also existing teachers. And I think there's some rules for the pre-service teachers. You'd have to talk to our Pearl director to find out all of the requirements. But part virtual and then part on campus in College Park at the University of Maryland. And one thing that's always so wonderful about Star Talk is that it pulls in professionals from all over the world. We had one of our Pearl workshops before the pandemic, someone come in from people coming in from Asia, people, not a lot, most people are from the United States, but you do have an international flair where you get to interact with people from all over the country and internationally. And so it's a wonderful time to share ideas and learn from each other. That is one of our many mantras, is that we learn so much from each other at these. It's not just Pearl imparting knowledge, but it's the knowledge that we gain from being with other people, whether it be virtually or in person. So,
how big is the program? How many teachers are you expecting?
So I don't know how many slots there are.
Okay, we can check the details on the
I'll
website.
have to, the details, it's in the planning stage. And I believe that when we chatted yesterday, Thomas sent out our Pearl newsletter, but I think, and I can put it in the chat, my email is connie@umg.edu. If you contact me, I will forward your email to the Pearl folks, and they can get you all the registration information for the Star Talk and Pearl workshops that's out there. Got a lot going on right now, and sometimes the details of how many people,
I know. Yeah.
I don't know how many slots there are available now. Registration has begun, and I don't know exactly how many slots remain open. So
okay, thank you so much. Okay, I can see one question from Christy, but I think that was answered by Erica, right? All right. Let's check if there's any questions on the Q&A. Okay, that's it. Yeah, we have about 5 minutes left, but if you want to add something, I don't see any other questions coming in, but maybe give 1 or 2 minutes to wait if there's any other questions. Maybe you can add something, or Erica, you want to add something or any questions about the or we good?
Well, I mean, I guess I can, I'll touch back based on the question that was asked about national certification.
Mhm.
Now, I would not say that that is required by any means. What that does is just it gives you an extra level of validation for your skill. It is not required to do work with us. Please, feel free to send your resumes to us. You can send it for translations. You can send it to translations@latn.com. And if you're interested in doing interpreting services, you can do recruiting@latn.com. And we'll get it, directed to the right person, and someone will be in touch with you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it
I
was
hope that clarifies things. I don't want to make it to where the national exam is like, because that is it's something you strive for and you work towards, but you should be able to you need to get skills in order to pass that exam. So there's ways that you do need to get that, or if you're looking to get that, there's ways to do that.
All right. Okay. I think we have one last question for, I think, Connie. Do either of the apps or program that you introduced today have lessons for native speakers who want to further develop their languages?
So the app is probably caps out where a native speaker might want to. Our advanced lessons might work for it, but if you go on our portal that does have real high level and technical subjects. So for example, we have a whole set of lessons on cybersecurity. So one thing we find is that maybe native speakers want to improve their technical knowledge in a particular area. And so I would filter, go to the portal and then filter for lessons in the L3 and above. And feedback is that they are very helpful for both language learners and heritage speakers and native speakers who maybe want to learn a little more about a technical area.
All right. Thank you so much for your answer. And very last one, Erica, I have one last question. Some teachers are leaving their field. Is the translation field profitable if I consider leaving my profession, maybe interpretation? I think it's a very practical question.
Let me read that question again. Or could you read that question to me one more time?
Yes, some teachers are leaving their field. Is the translation field profitable if I consider leaving my professions? Or maybe interpretation?
I think that right now it just depends on what's out there. There are, as a freelancer, you take you take the risk that it's jobs as needed, versus having maybe a teacher as a steady employment. So you have an 8-hour like guaranteed work. You could be very profitable in the translation and interpreting fields. It's just at the moment it's a freelance opportunity. So it just depends on what kind of opportunities you are exposed to. And so it can be a very profitable. It just depends on what you're being offered.
Okay, I see. Thank you so much. I think we're about the time, but I have one comments from Aram that the link might not working. So we'll get back to you, Aram, for the appropriate link through emails. If you leave your email here, or you can send the question to Connie. I believe her email is in the box. Okay.
I tried to answer that question.
Okay.
Do I have 1 second to say one thing about
that?
Oh,
yeah.
We
If I-
are doing portal upgrades this week
Mhm.
and next.
I
And so there
see.
have been some glitches. You can contact me. I may be able to help you. If not, by November 11th, we'll be migrated to a new platform and there
Mhm.
will be no signing glitches.
Mhm.
So I apologize.
Okay, I tried, while you explained, but it's not working in my end too, but we'll try it again later. Okay, if we don't have any further questions, I'd like to say this concludes the social network session and also concludes the 2022 World Language Week. So thank you so much for joining us and for attending our event. And it was my pleasure. It's my pleasure having you all. Thanks again.